I'm not really sure how to start a review/retrospective of a genre-defining video game. I've been a Resident Evil fan for over 6 years as of me writing this review. I want to be as honest as I can and as critical as I can, like I am with my other game reviews. However, I want to be very respectful and generous to this game, seeing as it is 30 years old now and is very near and dear to many. I don't want to keep you all for too long because I'm sure there are much better and more passionate Resident Evil 1996 retrospectives out there. At least put my video on a second monitor if you are on PC and listen to me waffle about RE1. This game is Chris and Jill's genre-defining initial adventures into the world of evil scientists and bioterrorism. When you get a chance, please like and hype the video. Please do check out my channel bio and my video library on my channel. If you like what you see, please subscribe, darlings. Right, let me carry on with the daunting task of reviewing the humble beginnings of a Jill sandwiching, boulder punching, no thanks broing franchise.
We're gonna be fine. Listen,
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm kind of retarded.
Let's dive into aspects of the gameplay. The playable characters. Chris Redfield. I like playing as him despite the difficulty he brings. 6 slots for your total inventory space is diabolical work from 90s Capcom. He is faster and has more HP than Jill, so dodging with him is typically easier and less risky. Rebecca Chambers. Getting to play as Rebecca in about 2 segments is cool, but to speed up a run of RE1 as Chris, I try to avoid having to play as her. Jill Valentine. If I just want to do a casual playthrough, I'll typically choose Jill. Her array of weaponry is superior. 8 inventory slots is a major game changer. Her lockpick and having an easier time navigating through the Spencer Mansion is also a major selling point to play as Jill over Chris. Let's chat about the weaponry. The combat knife. I've never knife-only'd RE1, but I've seen the tips and tricks that make the combat knife in this game seem like the GOAT. I like to use the combat knife on downed enemies or when facing them on stairs because their vomit attack is easier to dodge than their grabs on flat floors, grounds, or terrain. The Beretta M92 FS. I like the standard handgun, perfect for zombies and really good for dogs if you're skilled at timing shots. The Remington M870, a useful shotgun, especially on a Chris playthrough. Never leave home without it. I'm just kidding, I'm from the UK, so I leave home without one every day. If I ever move to America, I would love to get gun training and go to a shooting range. Hopefully some bald American eagle caws and hawks as I hit a bullseye.
Spider Cat. Guys, am I that cringy though? Like, you can't. Who said yeah?
The bazooka. Forrest Bayer's bazooka is a game changer for Jill's campaign. Absolutely goated weapon and makes me feel like an action hero when I use it to sort out hunters and chimera. The Colt Python. Magnums bring a smile to my face. Magnums bring a joy to my day. With Magnums, I love to play.
It'd be really awkward to try to have the window down and communicate. So
sometimes you just gotta man up and swallow it. All right.
The Magnum is so good for dealing with the tyrant. Just make sure you time your shots well because the recoil can put you in sticky situations. The flamethrower. I like the flamethrower. It helps Chris out a lot during his campaign, more than Jill's I would say. I also love seeing Barry use it on Plant 42 in some of my playthroughs of RE1 OG. The rocket launcher. RPG says BYE to the tyrant at the end of the innovative gameplay experience that is REOG. Let's take a look at the enemies.
I'm in the ghetto. Ra-ta-ta-ta. Ra-ta-ta-ta.
Zombies. A classic and unmistakable enemy in Resident Evil history. Slow, creepy sounding, and heartbreaking to deal with because they were once soul-filled humans. Shooting them with enough handgun bullets and a few jabs with the combat knife is sure to sort out the most common enemy in RE1. Crows. Peckers who peck and peck till there's nothing left. Forest, you got done dirty and it shows, by your corpse surrounded by them crows. Cerberus. I always have to lock in when zombie dogs are on the screen. They are so fickle and fast. A shotgun shell or two should make quick work of them. Or if you are skilled enough, use well-timed handgun shots to down them efficiently. Monster plants. The monster plants in the mansion and the guardhouse are dealt with best when you either use the chemical on them or deal with plant 42 outright, respectively. Adders. I can typically avoid the little snakes, but every once in a while, I'll get nicked by one of them. I hate that they can poison you, but what kind of game would RE1 be if the snakes can't add a poison status to your player character?
Huh?
Wasps. Little pesky buggers. Just get in and get out whenever you're in a room with wasps. They are really not worth the trouble. Neptune. I couldn't believe that there were sharks in this game. I thought that was so cool and surprising on my first playthrough of RE1. The sharks are not a major issue at all. Once the water is drained, it's sayonara, sucker. You can leave them to pass peacefully or end their suffering. The choice is yours. Hunters. Instead of writing a whole essay about hunters, I'll try and be succinct with my words. Hunters add a great bit of challenge and spice to the second half of the game. The fear factor goes up. Their skinned gorilla and scaly crocodile similarities are sure to frighten a first-time player of a Resident Evil game. You have to become more strategic with your ammo consumption. My main issue with hunters is their one-shot move. Obviously you can say, get good, but I've never been a fan of one-shot enemies. Just my personal preference, but it's whatever. Web spinners. I don't hate the spider enemies, but I'm not a fan of them either. I'm kind of indifferent. It's like they were put there in the game for shock factor, which makes sense because this is a 90s horror game after all. Chimera. The developers were smart to keep these annoying friggin' enemies for the last area of the game. Their speed and attack patterns are jarring to say the least. I think their only saving grace is the coolness and creepiness of their design, very much horror or fear-inducing enemies. Now let's look at the bosses. Yawn. The first fight being skippable if you know what you're doing is absolutely awesome. I can imagine how scary Yawn must have been back in the day for you millennials and Gen Xers on your square tellies like in the 90s. Sometimes I wish I was born a Gen Xer or even a baby boomer because I would have had the sickest and vastest collection of video games ever. Anyway, with Yawn's second fight, you have to beat it and it's not too difficult, but it's still a very tense fight if you're struggling with tank controls and fixed camera angles that late into the game. Plant 42. I find this boss fight awkward because of the tank controls. The arena being bare bones doesn't help either. I can understand how human eating plants can be horrifying, but Plant 42 is just a nuisance that thankfully can be cleared with V-Jolt or Barry's flamethrower or just going solo with Chris or Jill's available weaponry. Black Tiger. I believe I have some level of arachnophobia, but not at the level that I have to turn off a game when a big spider is on the screen. I'm thankful Black Tiger is technically skippable if you pick up a combat knife and slice the strips of webbing blocking the exit door. The Tyrant. My favourite present to gift to a tyrant that's freshly escaped its pod are magnum rounds to the chest and head if it's safe to do so. The first fight is tight and uncomfortable when it comes to timing shots and dodging. With the second fight, the tyrant has the anger of a tyrant and the speed of a tyrant's most trusted ally. Therefore, the rematch requires more magnum rounds and a little drop from Brad Vickers, namely the RPG that concludes the final fight and the gameplay's runtime.
Shut your stupid, shut your stupid, shut your stupid, shut your stupid, shut your stupid.
Let's talk a bit about some of the puzzles. The shotgun puzzle, a classic and probably one of the more well-known puzzles from RE. It's a common sense puzzle, but on a first playthrough with a lack of good exploration, this puzzle can be a little tricky. The gallery puzzle. The crows are so imposing. I love it. That feeling, that pressure of knowing if you press the wrong buttons in the wrong order, well then, your goose is cooked. Make sure you run out of the room as fast as possible to reset the room without taking any peck damage. The emblems puzzle. One thing I love about survival horror, and particularly in classic ones like RE1, is that puzzles connect and are dependent on each other. The emblem in the dining room is needed for swapping to gain the emblem in the piano room. Then you take the obtained emblem to complete a puzzle that grants you a key to a door with a boss fight on the other end of it. A very good gameplay loop if you ask me. The armor room puzzle. If I'm remembering correctly, I found the armor room puzzle a little confusing on my initial playthrough, but beside that, I really like it. Pushing objects isn't the most thrilling of gameplay mechanics, but I like the comforting few seconds it gives me. I don't have to worry about shooting BOWs for a moment at least. The V-Jolt puzzle. I typically don't do the V-Jolt puzzle when I play RE1 OG. I'll typically just fight Plant 42 head on because it's faster and I actually want to use the ammunition I picked up. The waterfall puzzle. A solid puzzle. The backtracking is tolerable. Just gotta make sure I remember to pick up the square crank from the item box and use it the right number of times and keep the battery in my inventory as soon as I get it.
You thought you ate that?
Now for a brief discussion of the areas in the game. The Spencer Mansion. Iconic, never been done before, show-stopping, ethereally dark and demented, multifaceted, a residence of evil, crawling with biohazardous creatures. What more can I say about George Trevor's puzzlingly designed architecture? Lord Spencer's mind was boggling to say the least. This mansion is one of, if not the most iconic area or building in the franchise, possibly topping the RPD. The guardhouse. I love the route to the guardhouse and seeing the greenery, encountering more demented creatures and the pre-rendered visuals along the way. The underground water section was cool to see on my first playthrough and quite refreshing and hydrating, pun intended. I really like how Plant 42's roots are down there and just how all the areas connect across the scope of the game's map. The caves. The hunters make this area nerve-wracking for me on every playthrough. Them and those boulders. If only Chris had been a boulder puncher from the start.
It's like a boulder rolled through here. Huh?
The underground laboratory. I think the game's ending area being where the cause of the nightmare started is brilliant and brings about more of that visual storytelling. Let's move on to the story of RE1. So I'll start off by setting the scene. Raccoon City is a city in the Midwest of the USA. There have been many reports of humans consuming their own kind and bizarre murder cases. The elite police force called STARS, Special Tactics and Rescue Services, begin to investigate, and eventually the Bravo team fly out one night in July 1998 to the Arklay Mountains to look into a development. Alpha team ends up flying out too because Bravo team becomes unresponsive and many of the team are missing and a couple are dead already once Alpha team arrives at the specific location in the Arklay Mountains. After a while of investigating, some zombie dogs, aka Cerberus dogs, roll up and attack Alpha Team. Joseph Frost is unlucky with a Cerberus, but the rest of the STARS members head for a mansion that happened to be in the direction of where the team was running to get away from the zombie dogs. If you're playing as Chris, you'll have Rebecca and Wesker as the most important and reoccurring characters in the story. If you're playing as Jill, then you'll have Barry and Wesker as the most important and reoccurring characters in the story. Now, rather than go in super autistic detail about the story, I'll give my opinions and my main takeaways about the lore in this RE entry. If you want in-depth story explanations and analyses, there are plenty of great YouTubers like Gaming Harry, Jingy or Gingy, and many more. Google and YouTube are your friends when it comes to finding lore videos on entire gaming series, my dears. Right, here are my main takeaways from the lore and story. They are as follows. I think it's cool that the story focuses on elite cops being pushed to their limit by their evil scientist police superior. The visual storytelling, such as the size and scope of the Spencer Mansion and surrounding areas, suggesting a lot of money was invested into this residence of evil and the pursuit of bioorganic weaponry, is astounding. Additionally, the high number of enemies you come into contact with, especially that of zombies who were once sentient humans, most of them were in on the evil being conducted at the residence, and I don't know whether to feel sorry for them or be indifferent to their karma that came to collect. One thing I love about the lore in this game is that it set the foundation for the rest of the series. It's not too explicit, but it also gives you a lot of confirmation in notes and reports from the employees of the Spencer Mansion and surrounding areas. The lore gave Capcom a lot of room to expand upon in subsequent entries of RE games, for better or worse. The Bravo team members and Joseph Frost, who were murdered by Umbrella and Wesker, will never be forgotten by true Resident Evil fans. Can I get an amen? Let's talk about the characters. Chris Redfield. I'm not obsessed with Chris's initial iteration. I think he is quite bland in this game. I still like him though. He's focused and determined. His attitude and behaviour towards Rebecca just give older brother vibes, which is cute. His back and forth with Wesker during the last section of the game is funny, cringy, and everything in between. I love his signature green stars vest. Green being a colour motif that he has carried throughout his career. I think why I refer to him as bland is just because I've played as Chris in other iterations of Biohazard, and he has so much more emotion and depth in those games compared to the original Resident Evil.
The flavor, oh my god, it's so real, like.
Jill Valentine.
This is a potential mother.
Jill is such a sweetheart. I love her bravery and determination. I like how her relationship and interactions with Barry, although rocky at times, helps Jill to overcome the challenges of the Spencer Mansion. I think it brings about realism and that Jill isn't this random superwoman who can take on anything that comes her way without any sort of male support. Her character traits of lockpicking, piano playing, and being a combat-trained individual are all so inspiring to me. She's a very cool female character, which isn't surprising given how many cool female characters are in the Resident Evil franchise. And yes, Chris should have continued the Redfield bloodline with Jill after almost losing their lives in that madhouse. Barryburton. Sir Burton should have been a playable character, point blank period. I love Barry. His magnum is awesome, his attitude and support for Miss Valentine, despite being understandably shady at times, is heartwarming, and I always felt safe when he was on screen. Even near the end when he puts his magnum to Jill's head, I had a feeling Barry couldn't and wouldn't bring himself to do Jill like that. You know how in Hollywood they cast the same 5 or so people for all the major movies? That's what Capcom should have been doing with Barryburton. He should have been in every Resident Evil game and media. I just love Barryburton to bits. Our Resident Evil dad, or Resident Biohazard dad if you're Japanese. Rebecca Chambers. Rebecca is another sweetheart. I'm so glad she's in Chris's campaign. We got to see how much big brother energy he carries before even meeting Claire Redfield in subsequent games and media. Rebecca's excellent medicinal skills and competent gun skills make her a very decent character in the first ever Resident Evil entry. Along with all the other characters, her dialogue is not written strongly, but I think most of RE1 OG fans can appreciate the cheesiness for what it is. Albertwesker. I think if this version of Wesker was written better and the voice director gave the voice actor better voice direction, this version of Wesker would be one of my favourites. I like the sound of the voice actor somewhat. Wesker's beef with Chris is quite amusing to see in this version of RE1. His treatment of Barry really drives me to hate him because it's one thing to hurt the STARS members, but going after their families, even if it was just a ploy, is still disgusting and ultimately inhumane. Quite good villainous characterizations from 90s Capcom right there. The other STARS members. Kenneth dying first. They had to keep up the trend of the black person dying first in horror movies to achieve that B-movie horror authenticity. I can't really argue with that. Forrest got done dirty by those crows. Richard and his ouch line are funny yet really sad at the same time. Enrico's death was so unfortunate and just another reason to hate Wesker on top of all the other STARS members lost for combat data purposes. RE0 should have given us a chance to see them in action and their individual relationships with each other and Rebecca. So I'll quickly talk about the art style and graphics. I love the pre-rendered backgrounds. Sometimes you forget how much they do to immerse you in the game, especially given how stressful the fixed camera angles are already. Even though the graphics and character models are dated, there is a vibe and nostalgic feeling which newer or modern graphics just can't seem to replicate for me. One thing I love about emulation is the graphical tuning you can do to games to make them look less dusty and shinier, to put it in analogous terms. It's time for the music and OST mini review. I listened to the whole soundtrack of the original version of Resident Evil OG, and this is what I think. The sound effect tracks on the OST are really cool and are placed quite well in their respective game sections. In terms of the songs and themes, I'll list the ones I really like. I like Still Dawn, Long Lost Friend. The triggering system track goes very hard. Barry's Revenge slaps so hard. I like Wesker is Found. Plant 42 is a fun track in a freakish, funkish way. The guardhouse basement is great. I think it would have been perfect if slowed down just a tad. More Rooms hits differently too. It makes me want to do a little dance. What can I say about the save room theme that hasn't already been said? It's perfection. You have to be a talented person if you can encapsulate the feeling of temporary safety through musical instruments and arrangements. I like Second Floor Mansion too. Creepy vibes are there for sure. Piano Frenzy is hilarious during the failed attempts and makes me teary-eyed at the end when Moonlight Sonata is competently executed. I'm so very glad that it's a part of the OST. Meeting Rebecca has got to be cuteness musically personified. What a cute track. Perfect for introducing Rebecca and setting the tone that we need to keep this cute little one safe. I'm a big fan of the Sudden Attack track. Not too much a fan of the dogs that the track is accompanied with though. First Floor Mansion is beautiful but makes me want to err on the side of caution. I like Where's Wesker quite a bit. And I must say that I love the intro movie music so much. absolute banger of a track and a lovely way to introduce each of the main characters in Resident Evil 1. Okay, thank you for making it to the outro of my video. How did I do, guys? Hopefully this review was engaging enough, at the very least second monitor worthy. What negative or positive feedback would you give the video? I'm all ears. Do you agree with my opinions on Resident Evil OG? What things would you guys have implemented if you were on the development team of Biohazard 1? My sub goal is currently 1,000 subscribers. Please check out my channel, and if you like what you see, please hit the subscribe button. Thank you. If you want to directly support me, you can donate through my Ko-fi page or join my Patreon, which are both linked in the description. No pressure though. I'm aware of the economical state the world is in at the moment. I just have to plug my stuff in case anyone feels inclined to support me financially.
Are you not ashamed of yourself? Are you not embarrassed? This is really embarrassing.
Please like, share, and comment so that this video gets into the algorithm and more people can discuss this iconic and genre-defining video game. Thanks again, have a good one, God bless you, and goodbye.